Fair by Billy Kokola. Who doesn't love the fair? The rides, the laughter, the food and the fun. Playing games in the hope of winning that stuffed animal prize at the end of the night. I spent the time at the fair with Dakota and Connor, two preteen boys out of school for the day, just like every other school who closed because it was Kids' Wristband Day, from 12 to 5. It brought along its own issues. The boys had to make their way through the crowd, trying to get in line for the food, or waiting forever to ride that one ride, but it didn't seem to matter. They ran into their friends, and it passed the time with laughter and fun, making jokes and goofing around. Once they decided on their first ride, the boys eagerly waited in line, and no amount of time that passed could tamp down their excitement. They looked forward to getting into it and having fun. There were many different kinds of rides that day. Upside-down rides. Those were the best. Spinning in circles didn't seem to bother the boys at all. The idea of getting sick never crossed their mind, no matter how many times they got on that ride. But there's a new ride this year, and they were very indecisive about whether or not they were going to ride it. They tried to be brave in front of each other, as boys would want to do. And once they were on it, Dakota, he loved it. Connor, not so much. Dakota would lift his arms and just feel the breeze go past him, the smile on his face. He wasn't afraid. Connor, he didn't have as much joy in the ride as Dakota did. In fact, I think if he could have stopped that ride at that moment, he would have. He did not get on it again. At 5 o'clock, when the wristbands expired, the boys, they started to play their games. Their competitive nature wouldn't let them stop, no matter how much money they spent. They had to get the prize of that stuffed animal, and no matter how much money they went through, they didn't get it. The only thing they walked away with was a paper Chinese finger lock and a painted-on mirror. But they tried and tried to get that prize. And when it was done, they discussed their failed strategy. What were they going to do next year? How were they going to beat it? Once the games were over, we went on to the 4-H barns, and it was very quiet there. The cows, the boys loved them. They were their favorites. There was no danger in walking in between the cows there, and they weren't nervous about anything. But the horses were a different matter. The boys wouldn't walk into the draft barns at all. The closest they would get was walking down the empty stalls. Once we went to the horse show. The boys informed me this was better. The fence, it kept them safe. It was between them and the horses. The 4-H competition was exciting. The horses, they kicked up so much dust, and there was so much action, and they ran back and forth, and the boys cheered them on, and the announcer, he just talked so fast and so loud. The fair ends with the parade the next morning, and it has its usual run of costumes and animals. The best part for Connor is the candy being thrown out by all the people that are in it. And the queens and the princesses, he knew a few. And while one boy watched the parade from the sidelines, yelling and screaming and getting his candy, the other one marched in the high school marching band. Dakota, as a 7th grader, is the smallest one out there. The parade ends with an honoring to the fallen veterans. The patriotism could be felt by all, with the flags waving. The fair is done for another year, and the boys, they had a good time. And at the end of it all, they still talked about what they were going to do next year at the fair.